Our movie opens up in the city of Seattle, a gloomy and cloudy city where high school genius Light Turner resides. Along with Light, we meet the reluctant cheerleader Mia Sutton. Light does some homework for others, while Mia smokes and crosses her arms because she's too cool to be a cheerleader. One day, a sudden rain falls on the schoolyard. With it, a book seemingly falls from the sky. It's labeled Death Note. The rain pours harder, and everyone makes a run for cover. On the way inside, Mia and Light stumble on the high school bully, Kenny. He's shaking a kid down for cash, and Mia tries to intervene. When Kenny retaliates, Light steps up. In a lame attempt to impress Mia, Light instigates a fight and immediately gets knocked out. When Light wakes up, he's found by a teacher and brought to the principal's office. His side hustle, doing other kids' homework, has been exposed, and they're more concerned about him helping others cheat than the fight that occurred. Despite Light recently losing his mom, the principal holds nothing back and gives Light detention for 2 weeks. In detention, Light reads the Death Note book and finds a list of rules and names written inside. Opening the book summons the Death Demon that we'll later come to know as Ryuk. Light understandably panics and makes a break for the door. However, the door shuts and traps him inside with the beast. Terrified by the situation, he hides under his desk before determining that he's dreaming. When he finally calms down, the demon approaches him with the book. Kenny's outside bullying a kid again, and the demon urges Light to write his name down in the book, ultimately killing Kenny. With some slight hesitation, Light agrees and determines that Kenny's death will be by decapitation. Light watches from his window as a series of freak events lead to a car crash that decapitates Kenny, just like Light asked for. The incident shocks Light, and he falls to the ground in disbelief. The demon tells him that the book is his, but if he ever wanted it gone, he'd just have to leave it alone for 7 days, and the book will find a new home. The demon disappears without a trace, and Light is left to contemplate his actions. At home, Light and his dad eat dinner together. His dad approaches him about the incident at school, but Light is unbothered by it. Unconvinced, his dad pushes for more, but Light insists that it's fine. The conversation sparks a sensitive topic about Light's father's career as a cop, and Light lashes out at his father for being a cop that hasn't caught his mother's killer. In his room, Light is reading the rules of the Death Note when the demon makes an appearance. Light offers it an apple, and it willingly accepts. He reveals that his name is Ryuk, and Light begins to ask him some questions. Cinema recap here. We've got a little challenge that'll take 5 seconds, and it will change your life forever. You ready? All you gotta do is like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and you'll receive 10 free years of good luck. It's as simple as that. Light discovers that he can influence a person for 2 days prior to their death, and that each death must be physically possible. All he needs is a name and a face. With his new powers, Light dooms his mother's killer and logs his name into the book. Again, a series of unfortunate events occur and the man accidentally stabs himself in the throat with a steak knife. The next day, his father gets a call about the news and eagerly shares it with Light. Both happy that the man's dead, the two make amends for last night's argument and assure that they still love one another. At school, Light continues to study the book and is approached by Mia, who eagerly asks him to elaborate on Kenny's death. Turns out she's kinda sadistic. She introduces herself, and they finally formally meet despite already knowing each other's names. When Mia asks him about the book, he eagerly takes her away to show him. However, since she's not the keeper of the book, she cannot see Ryuk. Light explains that he's in control of a death god and is responsible for Kenny's death. The claim makes him look insane, and when she tries to leave, he stops her. With one last attempt to convince her, he pulls up a live crime scene on his laptop and in detail writes the man's death, just like Light described. The man salutes the crowd before getting run over by a SWAT truck. Light and Mia witness this live on the laptop, convincing Mia that Light is telling the truth. With Mia now an ally, the two agree that they could use the power for good. Mia eggs Light on further and says they can make the world a better place together. Light takes Mia home, and the two get intimate, bonding over their obsession with power and secrecy. As the days go on, the two grow more obsessed with their newfound power. Light looks to make himself a god, to kill everyone that he deems unworthy. With Mia at his side, they kill every big-time criminal they can find. More so, Light names himself Kira, Japanese for killer, and Russian and Celtic for light. With the anonymity of the book, any investigation to find him would be difficult. In addition, the name Kira would have investigators searching the wrong continent. Light executes his plan to kill those he deems wicked, and has each of them write a message saying, "Lord Kira has returned" in Japanese. It isn't long before the two get carried away with their plan. The world begins to worship the supposed god Kira, and crime begins to plummet with his justice. However, the mass killings don't go unchecked. Kira appears at the top of the FBI's most wanted list, and both conspiracy theories and protests begin to emerge. It's then that we're introduced to L, the greatest detective since Batman. L's a strange fellow investigating a mass murder in Japan. L has been feeding Kira names and faces through the FBI database, hoping that Kira would spring his trap. It's become obvious to L that Kira is not an all-knowing god. Rather, Kira is basing his targets off a list of most wanted criminals. Side note, he doesn't sleep much, so he has a handler, Watari, sing him a lullaby to take a quick nap. It's not important to the story, but it happens enough where I thought I'd mention it because weird. Back in America, Light doesn't take too kindly to his father being put in the investigation team to catch Kira. Light thinks himself as a god and has told himself that he can't do wrong. His dad, on the other hand, is not crazy and realizes Kira is a problem. Being able to play God in any shape or form is dangerous. Light doesn't think so, but then again, he's got this God complex going on, so he makes his own rules. In his office, Detective Dad is welcomed by a lovely gift from Kira's sympathizers. Poor guy's only been on the case for a few days, but acts like he's the head of the entire operation and trashes his office. Apparently, some cops already view Kira as their god. He gets a call from the FBI and is introduced to Watari. Watari introduces him to L, and L offers his help in the Kira case. By some crazy Sherlock Holmes level of deduction, L has figured out how the name Kira is a misdirect. More so, he's somehow reasoned that Kira's in Seattle. Don't ask how. It makes sense if you don't think about it. Meanwhile, Light's equally insane girlfriend Mia urges him to kill people, listed on a website by his cult followers, and in the hopes that he gets laid, Light agrees. Detective Dad meets L in their new base of operations, where he's welcomed with pistachio ice cream. Yay. Turns out L didn't randomly land on Seattle. The guy Light killed to prove himself to Mia was L's first clue. The incident was only broadcasted on local channels, and L is fairly confident that his strange behavior was because of Kira. Well, hot damn. I take it back. L is a great detective. L tells Detective Dad about his suspicions that Kira has access to the criminal database, and decides the first thing to do is hold a press conference. During the press conference, L talks some mad trash about Kira. He calls Light out, but since he's completely anonymous, Light can't kill him on the spot. He accomplishes two things by doing this. One, he proves his theory that Kira needs a name and a face. And two, he seriously pisses Light off. That night, Light nonchalantly asks his dad who L is. He gives him a brief rundown of L's history, but ultimately he doesn't know who he really is. Light tries to accuse L of being Kira himself, but ironically his dad says, "I think you know when you're sitting across from a killer." Yeah, totally. The next day, L has tasked his team to follow everyone with possible access to the police database. This includes Light. His dad isn't too happy about it, but allows it to continue. Out on a date with Mia, Mia's psychotic side begins to show again when she suggests that they kill everyone that defies them. Light, however, doesn't want to kill the innocent and shuts down the idea. Mia obviously doesn't like this. Later, when the couple's watching the news like any other normal high school couple, Mia abruptly packs her things and leaves. The next day, all the FBI agents that were tasked with the investigation of Kira mysteriously commit suicide. L tries to warn them, but it's too late. They belly flop on some concrete and send out the message to not mess with Kira. This is the first time Kira has apparently attacked law enforcement. Light, being the love-struck puppy that he is, immediately blames Ryuk for the death of the officers, because it couldn't be his perfect girlfriend, right? In retaliation, Light threatens Ryuk with a notebook. Right. Later that day, a very pissed-off Detective Dad calls out Kira on live television. He paints Kira as a murderer with no sense of right or wrong, a bad guy. He basically dares Kira to kill him. Light obviously won't do that to his dad, but Mia, on the other hand, the debate sparks a heated argument that causes a rift between the two lovebirds. When Detective Dad comes home, alive and well, Light hugs him, proud of what he's done. The events of that day have L convinced that Light is, in fact, Kira. To confirm his suspicions, he decides to meet Light and do the logical thing, accuse him in person. Light tries to play it off, but the conversation hurts his fragile ego, and he ends up arguing with L about Kira. L's already convinced that Light is Kira, but Light doesn't make it much better when he starts getting defensive. Nonetheless, L won't be satisfied till he's got proof. He lets Light go, vowing to catch him and put him away. Back at Light's house, Mia begs for his forgiveness. Some intense groveling and a confession of love does the trick. "Welcome back, psycho cheerleader girlfriend. Please, drive me further down to madness." Light comes up with the plan to reveal L's true name. He possesses Watari with a book, asks him to reveal L's true identity, and then plans to save him by using his one pardon, burning the page before he's scheduled to die. Great plan, if Watari actually knew who L was. Nobody knows L's true identity. He was raised in an orphanage. and trained to be a detective. Watari is just a handler. Light tasks him with finding out L's true identity before he's killed. L wakes up to find his handler missing. He discovers Watari's room empty and deduces that he's been taken by Kira. He barges into dinner at the Turner residence, angrily asking for Watari back. He's known the man his entire life and knows that he would never disappear like he did. Needless to say, L is livid. He's packing heat, bringing a search warrant, and a group of men outside ready to raid the house. Light continues to play innocent, but L insists that he's Kira. Like the good father he is, Detective Dad defends his son and shoves L away. The SWAT come in, and L demands that they tear the whole place apart. Traumatized, Light and his father watch as their house is picked apart. They have a little heart-to-heart, and despite the many red flags, his dad still believes he's innocent. Across the world, Watari makes his way into a very creepy abandoned mansion that is most definitely haunted. Mia tells Light that she has the book, and in an attempt to blend in, the two go to homecoming together. Mia dances with a different dude wearing Light's hat, and Light sneaks off to talk to Watari. Eventually, L figures out what Light's after, and sends a group of men to the definitely haunted mansion just as Watari finds the records with L's true identity. The men that L sent barge in and interrupt them before he can give the name to Light. Thanks to Light's vague description of Watari's death, and Mia ripping out the page, Watari's shot by the very men trying to save him. Ryuk mocks Light's failure and sides with Mia's choices. Not so surprisingly, she's the one that stole a page from the Death Note and killed all the agents. More so, she calls Light the more explicit version of a wuss and tells him that she's the one that has to make the hard decisions. At this point, I'm just cracking up watching this movie. To add insult to injury, she's written Light's name in the book and insists that he hand over ownership of the book to her. She couldn't let him burn Watari's page because she wanted Light's name to be the one pardoned. Now that he's Mia's pet, she tells him to get her book before he dies. Maybe I'm a sadist, but damn, that was funny. Meanwhile, L finds out that Daddy Watari is dead, and in a fit of rage, grabs his gun and rushes over to presumably kill Light himself. All hell breaks loose as Dad Detective gets his men to look for L and his son. Light decides to get a couple of names in while he's got the chance. Mia stands there as the homecoming is raided. L chases Light down the street of Seattle, and Light tries to make it to Mia before his time runs out. L surprisingly has great parkour skills. Light's eventually caught in an alley, but he's saved by one of his cult followers. Light makes it to Mia in time and uses L's gun to hold up the Ferris wheel, where they can be alone together. Despite everything, he still loves Mia and tries to convince her to put their life as Kira behind. She thinks about it for like half a second before taking the book from Light. This triggers Light's trap. If Mia takes the book, she'll die. This man actually thought she loved him. Nah, fam, she just wants the power of the book. Ryuk takes the pleasure of sabotaging the Ferris wheel, which leads to this dramatic scene where Mia chooses the book over Light and ends up falling to her death. Light conveniently falls into the water, and the page in the book with his name falls into a fire, saving his life. Sometime later, Light has been in a coma, and someone else has been doing the work of Kira for him. The alibi is rock solid, and L is taken off the case. But the movie isn't over. The book ends up back with Light after his name's cleared, but his dad now knows the truth. He found the evidence when Light used the book to kill his first victim, his mother's killer, and now he knows his son is Kira. When he asks how he did it, Light explains his crazy convoluted plan. Turns out that back during homecoming, when he was in the computer room writing more names down, he was setting pawns into place. He had the doctor at the pier to save him, and a pedophile at the shore to continue his work while he was in a coma. Light rigged everything from the start, including the page with his name on it being burned. You would think that he's in the clear, but L's obsession isn't over. He remembers Mia's involvement and barges into Mia's room, finds the stolen page, and maybe kills Light? Who the heck knows? What a ride. Mia was the epitome of a crazy girlfriend. What would you have done if you were Light? Let us know in the comments with the hashtag #CinemaRecap.